Howdy! For censored and deleted Family Guy scenes, we have a challenge. And that great challenge is, can we possibly discuss these scenes while remaining in somewhat good taste? Well, I don't know, but I'm sure gonna try. But for more sensitive viewers, I do recommend giving this one a skip. As a warning ahead, there might be some scenes ahead that may be triggering or unpleasant for some viewers. But as always, I'll try and discuss these scenes with as much respect and care as possible. And if I don't have the official reason the scene was deleted, I'll do my best to give my own personal speculation. So with that said, let's check out the 10 censored or banned Family Guy episodes. For number 10, the splendid sauce for the world's dirtiest joke scene. This one's a very cheeky joke. It's basically about Peter, Joe, Cleveland, and Quagmire taking an adventure to find the source of the world's dirtiest jokes. And the deleted scene was, unsurprisingly, Peter telling said dirtiest joke in the world.
So this chick goes on a date with this guy that she wants to but she's worried because she's got like a huge vagina from so many other guys.
You see, until the deleted scene at the end of the episode, we'd only ever heard the punchline of the joke. This one only managed to get one airing before the censors pulled it from television completely. And instead, we got a video of a monkey scratching himself. And when I heard the joke, well, I kinda got why it was removed.
So she puts a liverwurst in her vagina, goes home with a guy, him, everything seems fine.
It's very dirty, has a ton of adult themes, and lots of swear words. But the episode as a whole is actually pretty funny and interesting. I'd call this decent modern Family Guy. It's very well paced, and it's a genuinely intriguing mystery to find the source of these dirty jokes. And honestly, it's just great to see Peter, Cleveland, Quagmire, and Joe go on a trip together again. How long has it been since that? And for the 9th deleted scene, Spies reminiscent of us. I think Family Guy cutaway jokes can be very hit or miss. Sometimes these cutaways are so unexpected they'll give me a very good belly laugh, but quite a lot of the time they just leave me cringing, grossed out, or in some cases even outright rage quitting the episode.
Here is Russian cutaway gag.
This deleted cutaway, well, you could probably guess it isn't their best. In the story, Brian and Stewie follow Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd to Russia.
Holy crap, Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase!
But when Stewie declares it's a bad idea, we cut away to, well, let's let Stewie say it, shall we?
Yeah, coming to Russia was a worse idea than a leper colony doing the hokey pokey.
What precedes is something that is, to be fair, a very bad idea for everyone involved.
You put your left leg in and you leave it there.
But, well, at least this poor leper colony seems to be making the most of it.
You put your right arm in and you come back for it later.
You go, guys, live it up. And for number 8, Stewie kills Lois. Seth himself actually claimed this scene to be among his top 5 most offensive jokes on Family Guy. And as you can probably imagine, that's against some stiff competition right there.
Don't make us go good cop, developmentally disabled cop on you.
The story here isn't far from the title. Stewie apparently kills Lois, she goes missing, and Brian vows to expose him.
Did you kill Lois?
Of course I didn't, Brian. Remember what you said?
So what was the cut here? Well, quick background for the deleted scene here. Pat Tillman was a footballer turned soldier who tragically died in Afghanistan due to friendly fire. And with that background in mind, here's the joke.
When you see the Taliban come over the horizon, you open fire immediately.
Okay, so when I see Pat Tillman come over the horizon, I shoot him.
No!
No. Although the joke was intended to make fun of the army rather than Pat Tillman, I think it's another of those jokes that was just too soon, while many were understandably still in shock and mourning.
Okay, I shoot Pat Tillman, then run over the horizon.
No! He's on our side!
Though with or without the deleted scene, it's actually one of my least favorite episodes, mostly because I just get so bored of the whole Stewie kills Lois shtick.
What are you doing with a gun?
Something I should have done a very long time ago.
To me, they're like the most suicide jokes. I just never think they were that funny to begin with. I way prefer modern Stewie, who actually has a personality beyond that. But anyway, what was nice to see was Pat Tillman's brother actually laughed when he heard the joke, because it showed how incompetent the military could be. And deepest respects to Mr. Kevin Tillman for taking the joke with a smile. That takes character and boldness, sir. Number 7. He's Sorry, Cleveland. You might remember in this episode, our good old buddy Cleveland returns to Quahog with his new family and his lovely wife Donna.
What's up?
Oh, hey, Cleveland.
Unfortunately, Lewis and Donna don't get along. at all.
You're a terrible parent. I'm a terrible parent? You're a child abuser.
However, Cleveland and Peter are thrilled to see each other again, so in this deleted scene, Peter and Cleveland secretly meet up in a cabin, and every time they meet, they try and top each other in how heavy their drugs are.
Lois, know you here?
No clue. I brought beer.
I brought pot.
They start with beer, pot, move on to acid, and then crystal meth. And then, because this is Family Guy, who knows no shame, they move on to chemotherapy at the top.
I think we may have gone too far.
Anyway, you can probably see why this scene would be censored. If I were to hazard a guess, which is always a good way of sticking a foot in my mouth, I'd say Fox said no to the chemotherapy joke, and without the joke's punchline, the joke lost all its impact, so they had to scrap it. I'd say for a subject as sensitive to so many people as cancer, it's probably a bit further than Fox is willing to let Family Guy go. As for the rest of the episode, well, Cleveland's one of my favorite characters in the show, probably because he seems to be one of the only decent human beings in Quahog without a sociopathic streak. So it was nice to finally see an episode revolving around him. I gotta say though, I was disappointed to see they turn Cleveland's wife Donna into a character as obnoxious as Loretta, Cleveland's ex-wife.
Cleveland, get in here and pull your pants down.
In the early Cleveland show, I thought Donna would end up being a much kinder wife who genuinely loved Cleveland, and the two seemed on equal footing in terms of decision making, and that was nice. But I guess Quahog is a way of turning everyone who's entered it, except Cleveland and Bruce, into bloodthirsty monsters.
Sorry, Cleveland, it's gotta be authentic.
Number 6. Quagmire's mum. Apologies in advance if I look slightly green while discussing this one. It's a very grotesque subject.
Did you have sex with this underage girl?
I don't want to go to jail, but I really want to take credit.
When we get into an episode about the history of a criminal/sexually active individual like Quagmire, well, the writers sometimes found themselves writing over themselves, continually stumbling upon their scenes being censored. In this case, the episode actually had a couple of deleted scenes, one of which was where you learn Quagmire's mum had a personal pleasure attained surprisingly prematurely after the childbirth of Quagmire. Repeatedly. Ew. Fortunately, the censors seem to draw the line when it comes to putting minors in situation of sexually explicit content. Luckily, even characters like, Herbert never seem to manage to actually hurt minors like Chris, though they've gotten really uncomfortably close in some episodes.
The things that seem the most dangerous turn out to be the most fun.
Are you a pedophile?
The other deleted scene? Quagmire's mum claims in court that she had an affair with Stephen Hawking, and she gave him the idea for black holes. And this parody of Stephen Hawking goes on to explain these black holes in great detail. Am I the only one who just thinks this is a really dumb joke? Well, I guess that was why it was removed. I don't think I need to mention that this scene was not banned because Mr. Hawking was talking about astrophysics. And honestly, that's probably all you need to know about this kind of trashy, low-rung season 13 episode. It's definitely not Family Guy at its smartest.
It's a boy, Mrs. Quagmire.
Ah, that's wonderful.
How do you feel?
Horny. Really horny.
Number 5. Turban Cowboy. Yeesh. This joke was so abhorrently received, the entire episode was just canned by Fox altogether, indefinitely. And I can definitely empathize with why it left a poor taste in many people's mouths. The episode itself is a simple enough story about Peter meeting a Muslim man named Mahmoud. He meets him after getting in a skydiving accident.
Self back in such situations. Oh! Ground! Ah! Damn it!
In general, you might be thinking Fox removed this episode because of some of the racial jokes they made. But interestingly, the cause of the deletion was actually at the very start of the episode, before Peter even meets Mahmoud. You see, while skydiving, Peter states he hasn't had a rush like this since he won a marathon.
Holy crap, this is awesome! I haven't felt a rush like this since I won that marathon.
Leading to a really distasteful cutaway of Peter committing mass genocide at the Boston Marathon. Ugh.
And when there was a guy in my way, I killed him.
This rapidly became an even worse taste when the Boston Marathon bombings occurred a month later. So Fox promptly removed the entire Turban Cowboy episode from Fox.com, Amazon, and Hulu. Apparently, the network has no plans to broadcast the episode again, and I think I'm okay with that. Unfortunately, somehow things escalated still and managed to be in even poorer taste, because this led to an even grosser story about the sad clickbait nitwits on YouTube, whom edited in bombs in the footage to make it look like Family Guy predicted the Boston bombings. Needless to say, Seth was absolutely appalled and called it abhorrent. And Mr. MacFarlane, we can definitely see eye to eye there. On a personal note, I apologize if I seem a little shaky talking about this one. As a 10-year marathon runner, this scene cut me a lot deeper than I thought it would. For those who don't know, for runners, the Boston Marathon for many is seen as one of the greatest privileges to run in. People train for years to get into this. But more importantly, this tragedy took the lives of so many people. And this is just my opinion, but I'm personally glad that Fox had the good taste to remove it. The episode's not that great to begin with, so I don't think it did them any harm. Number 4. Road to Rhode Island. Hey, alright, this is actually one of my favorite Family Guy episodes of all. It's the original Brian and Stewie team-up, and it really builds on that nuanced Brian and Stewie relationship. So what controversial deleted scene could possibly be removed here? Well, do you happen to remember Dr. Amanda Rebecca? She's the, relationship counselor on the tape Lois picked up.
Make sure your wife is out of the room.
And you might remember her tactics for selling tapes were a little bit unorthodox.
That's what I thought. Oh man, you're making me so hot.
Of course, the counseling thing's just a front for her to deliver pornographic videos of herself, much to Peter's surprise. Anyway, the deleted scene we missed was the good doctor going a little bit further. In fact, she goes to the extent of nude, literal softcore pornography. Where's the deleted scene cut at? Right here. We instead immediately cut to Peter staring in shock.
Yes, please.
Then you'll have to order my next tape.
And you might be surprised where I had to look to find even this much. But interestingly, this fully nude scene wasn't deleted because of the censors. It was deleted because it was just an extra part made by the team for fun. It was made by the Family Guy team just for laughs. It was never meant to be on the air. Technically, they never released the nude scene, but it still managed to get leaked on the web. Though I think over the last few years, Fox has worked really hard to remove this one from the web.
You should have told me. You should have told me.
And for the third censored Family Guy episode, Peter's sister.
And everyone's just standing around doing nothing, like the whole world during the Holocaust.
When I heard what this deleted scene was about, I went into this scene with my teeth clenched, expecting the worst. Surely any joke, even slightly involving the Holocaust, would be in terrible taste. Though actually, I found myself relieved at what could have been a much, much worse joke. The episode itself is about Peter's sister coming to visit for Thanksgiving, but she can be just awful to her brother. And while I don't feel much sympathy for Peter at this point, as I don't like him,
Mom, have you seen my Trapper Keeper?
I gotta say, she humiliates him pretty bad here.
Oh.
And while this is happening, Meg opens to a cutaway gag for the Holocaust.
Like the whole world during the Holocaust.
Too true. Never again.
It's an interesting cutaway because it opens up with viewers clenching for the most untasteful joke in Family Guy history. But the tension is released when we see Peters simply agreeing with Meg what an absolute tragedy it was. The actual punchline begins when Peter cuts away to a anti-Semitic pigeon.
All right, let's go.
When I saw this scene, it got me wondering, how do Jewish viewers actually react to jokes like this?
And now I shall continue the prayer. Kalima, Kalima, Kalima.
And it was nice to see some people that happen to be Jewish actually found some of these jokes really funny, or at least worth a smirk. But honestly, I'm not the right person to be making judging on this. I'd rather ask a person who's Jewish. But anyway, the entire scene was deleted from the episode's airing pretty quickly.
This is why I hate going outside.
And for number 2, When You Wish Upon a Weinstein. Because of lawsuits and controversy, this episode actually sat in cold storage for years until 2003. In fact, this was the first ever banned Family Guy episode. Congratulations! Sort of. The episode even led to some people thinking that Family Guy was anti-Semitic.
Peter, not every Jewish person is good with money.
Well, yeah, I guess not the retarded ones, but why would you even say that?
So why was it banned? Well, the whole episode is just one big mess, really. The story is, Lois tells Peter he's bad with money, so he sings a song about needing a Jew.
Hebrew people I've adored, even though they killed my Lord.
Oh. In fact, Peter does an entire When You Wish Upon a Star song parody about his desire for a money-savvy Jewish person. So Seth and his team were bombarded with massive lawsuits over both the title and the song. When You Wish Upon a Star, anyone? I can't imagine Disney was too thrilled with their iconic song be even slightly associated with an anti-Semitic song either. So Cartoon Network, Fuzzy Door Productions, and just Seth MacFarlane himself were all sued for damages. But technically, it's a parody of the song. So once again, Seth and his crew were safe, thanks to Section 107 of the Copyright Act. Anyway, since eventually they won the case years later, I believe the episode was made available on Hulu, so you can probably check it out nowadays if you were curious. I appreciate that as the episode goes on, Max Weinstein, a Jewish accountant, better shows how misinformed Peter is, and that people who happen to be Jewish are just like any other human being. But again, I'm not a Jewish person, so I have no idea how a Jewish person might feel about this episode. If you do happen to be Jewish, I would be genuinely curious of what you think of some of these jokes. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. As for my opinion, it's early Family Guy, so I found it pretty harmless with a couple of good cutaway jokes. Number 1. Partial Terms of Endearment. I know this episode makes its way onto a lot of top Family Guy lists, but honestly, part of the reason of that is there's just no topping how terrible some of these jokes are. Apparently Fox banned the episode because of its controversial subject matter. They were apparently concerned with the fact that it discussed abortion as a subject.
Not only is abortion murder, but it's also larceny, jaywalking, and securities fraud.
I mean, personally, when I saw the episode, I didn't think the subject matter was any problem at all. Perhaps it could be helpful to have a popular cartoon show discuss a subject that some people might just never talk about. I mean, when a subject like this is rarely discussed in society, I personally think that makes it even more important that shows talk about it.
I'm a little uncertain about this.
That's perfectly natural, Mrs. Griffin, and you should ask as many questions as you can before you decide.
My personal problem with the episode is so many of the jokes just stink. And some of these really turn the joke offensive meter up to 10. I mean, they even managed to shoehorn in a disabled baby joke.
Florence Griffith Joyner and Stephen Hawking.
Okay, I think that's enough.
Ugh, really, guys? Anyway, the story is Lois is asked by an old college friend if she'll become a surrogate mother for her. Lois agrees and undergoes vitral fertilization. However, since this is Family Guy, the biological parents are killed in a car crash.
A devastating pileup on I-95 has injured 8 people and killed 2 others.
So Lois has to decide or not whether she wants to terminate the pregnancy. However, anti-choice activists take a swipe at Lois through Peter, and it's legitimately uncomfortable to watch Peter physically force Lois out of the clinic and start demanding she makes decisions according to him, which basically means he wants to decide what happens to a pinpoint-sized fertilized egg in Lois's body. Brian points out that self-gratification also kills tiny, alive sperm, leading to Peter also demanding that no one can find their happy place. Really? Needless to say, Chris is a little worried by this. Lois is put under tremendous pressure and it's hard to not feel bad for her. Fortunately, in the end, she makes her own decisions about what she decides to do with her body. Good on you, Lois. But the great part is, what I think doesn't matter. In many court of laws, what matters most is what the individual decides. And I hope it always stays that way. Anyway, this final Season 8 episode was permanently banned in all of USA and many other countries. Apart from on DVDs, I don't know if you can track this down on any streaming service, none that I've seen. Fortunately, since this episode, I feel like shows like BoJack and Big Mouth have also discussed the subject of abortion with much more respect, care, and thought. So hopefully, people of all genders will tune into those episodes instead of this one.
We've assembled this diverse panel of white men in bow ties to talk about abortion.
Because personally, I don't think it's taboo what subjects we discuss. I think it's so important how we discuss them. To once again quote Mr. Rogers, anything that is mentionable is manageable. If we treat a subject with respect, thought, and care, I think it gives us the potential to make people feel a lot less alone and replace misinformation with information. Anyway, I realize a couple of deleted scenes didn't make the list. So if you feel there's any I missed or should have talked about or have your own thoughts on these scenes, I'd love to know. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.